I want to tell you a story. A story of two men. One being that fellow, Jack Grealish.
No, to be fair, I don't think I've slept.
Jack, do you mind? Can I take that for a minute? Because we want to see your list of trophies.
No, 1 second.
Okay.
Right, I'm a turkey, and the turkey needs feeding. So, Jack.
He is beloved with Manchester City and a former member of the England national team.
Jackie lad, any chance of an autograph? Please, Jack. Come on. Jack, come on, please.
Grealish, who is 30, recently made headlines for these photos of him out and about hitting the town a little too hard. Mind you, the sun is beaming outside. This is in broad daylight. Now look, have we gotten drunk in public before? At least most of us within society? Yes, of course. Reports would indicate, though, he arrived at Stories, Manchester at 4:30 p.m. on a Saturday and was asleep an hour later. One patron said pals tried to wake him. The booze must have caught up with him. One outlet even wrote that he is known as a party boy. And what would happen next? The press would give him a pass. The Telegraph. Falling asleep in a rooftop bar behind a table full of colorful drinks was not the smartest thing Jack Grealish has done, but as Dominic King points out, we all need help and guidance sometimes. See, this is rich for me personally, because not only do I keep tabs on what is going on, I also bring the receipts. Marcus Rashford is going to enter the fray. The former star with Manchester United and current man for Barcelona. You see, Rashford was also once caught hitting the bottle a little too hard.
Details of Marcus Rashford's all-day drinking session in Belfast have been revealed. The forward reportedly collapsed into bed hours before calling in sick to Manchester United. Sarah Adair, the waitress who was invited out by Rashford, said he was clearly on a mission to get drunk, and at the end of the night he was so drunk that she was forced to put him to bed after he passed out. Rashford's behaviour has led to the club issuing a statement saying he had taken responsibility.
Rashford, Marcus! I know I'm a massive fan, bro. I'm a big United fan. I know I'm not getting him in no trouble.
When I arrived at dinner, I had asked him what they were doing that day. Did they go anywhere nice? And he's like, oh, we've just been drinking all day. As the night progressed, there was more drink consumed, and the more drunk that he got, to then the point when we got back to the hotel, he was absolutely legless.
And look, objectively, poor decision. Rashford was pictured entering a nightclub in Belfast just 24 hours before he seemingly missed training due to being, quote, ill. Obviously, timing was very, very poor, as he would be pictured in the town for 2 nights. He would then miss the club's 4-2 win at Newport in the FA Cup. And look, while Manchester United would release a statement saying Marcus took full responsibility for his actions, it was dealt with internally, and then it was closed, the media in England smelled blood, to say the least. The same Telegraph that gave Grealish a pass posted an article titled From Saint to Sinner, Marcus Rashford's Fall from Grace. Jim White, a journalist, author, and broadcaster, and a long-running columnist for The Telegraph, would write, from national treasure to blind drunk in Belfast. It is a career arc he needs rapidly to reset. Ultimately, how he addresses that decline will come to determine our view of him. Oh, and trust me, it would not end there. Just one night out was all it took for columnist James Ducker to join in, claiming Rashford took on the government and had a tequila binge. What an odd way, almost in a violent way, to frame this.
The England and Manchester United footballer Marcus Rashford has been speaking about his own experiences of poverty and being short of food as a child as part of his campaign for the government to provide free school meal vouchers for vulnerable children throughout the school holidays. He's written to every MP for support after helping to raise £20 million for food for low-income families during the lockdown.
He has raised £20 million to supply meals to families in what he calls the pandemic of food poverty. In an emotional letter, he describes how his mother, a single parent, struggled to feed her 5 children while earning the minimum wage.
You know, my mum, she'd done the best she could. I remember we used to go to a shop called Pound World, and everything was under £1, and you know, we'd sort of schedule out the week, so we'd get 7 yogurts and you can have 1 yogurt a day, and this is all going on at a time where kids should be concentrating on schoolwork, and it's just crazy to think that this is still going on at this, you know, we're in 2020 now, and it's just something that I don't believe should be happening. You know, what families are going through now, I once had to go through that same system, and it's very difficult to find a way out, but now that I'm in this position that I'm in, it's very important for me to help the people that are struggling, and that was the main reason why the letter was written.
So let me see if I got this straight. In order for you to manufacture consent to your readers, you are saying that Rashford basically went head-to-head, face-to-face in a duel with the Tories and Labour, when in reality, all this dude wanted was to feed fucking kids. From The Guardian, while many of us were staying at home afraid of COVID, Rashford spent the early part of lockdown helping to deliver food to families who relied on free school meals. When the government announced the free meals program would not be extended over the summer holidays, he wrote an emotive and persuasive open letter to MPs imploring them to reverse that decision and help feed the 1.3 million families whose children risk going hungry as a result of it. He would even write, "This is about humanity, looking at ourselves in the mirror and feeling like we did everything we could to protect those who can't, for whatever reason or circumstance, protect themselves." He would then reflect on his past. My story to get here is all too familiar. My mom worked full-time, earning minimum wage to make sure we always had a good evening meal on the table, but it was not enough. The system was not built for families like mine to succeed, regardless of how hard my mom worked. As a family, we relied on breakfast clubs, free school meals, food banks, and soup kitchens were not alien to us. It was, to put it mildly, a rousing success.
Dozens of cafes, pubs and restaurants, as well as several councils, have stepped in to offer free school meals for children in England during half-term after the government refused to fund them.
The first thing that we wanted changing, they didn't want to change it, so I didn't have enough time to go and, you know, speak to the families and get all the information that I needed. So the best way to do it was to just give them the truth. But for me, it's about just waking everyone up and showing them that it's a real issue and it needs solving.
Rashford launched a one-man pressure campaign to convince the Conservative government to keep providing free lunch to needy kids, eventually forcing Prime Minister Boris Johnson into an embarrassing U-turn.
It's taken a campaign by a 22-year-old footballer to force you into action on free school meals. Have you lost touch with those that you promised to help?
Thanks very much, Vicky. Well, actually, I mean, I talked to Marcus Rashford today and congratulated him on his campaign.
This fall, parliamentarians voted against extending the free lunches during school holidays. So Rashford got back to work, drafting a petition that received over 1 million signatures and forcing Johnson into a second U-turn. The Prime Minister eventually pledged an additional £170 million to help the most vulnerable families until early March.
And if you thought he is just about one initiative, you're wrong.
But today, he's widened his focus to centre on reading, a campaign to spark a love of books amongst those who've been deprived of the experience. He himself grew up in one of the toughest districts in Manchester. The child of a single mother, he experienced real hardship and deprivation amid his footballing success. He has allowed himself to retrieve and act upon what he knew as a child.
Like I know a lot of kids that are in similar positions to me, but if I can show them something where they can do something other than being on the streets, then whether they read it or not, it's up to them. But at least they have the opportunity to do it, and it's the opportunity that I didn't have when I was a kid.
We are talking about real world impact here. NoKidHungry.org wrote, studies have shown that hunger isn't a short-term issue, by the way. Rather, childhood hunger can have a devastating domino effect that produces severe and lasting physical and psychological consequences. In addition, they print, a report from the American Academy of Pediatrics noted the toxic nature of early life stress and how it can significantly contribute to adverse health outcomes such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, asthma, autoimmune conditions, and more. Because childhood hunger activates the stress response, it can induce a whole host of negative health outcomes that persist through adulthood. Yet Rashford admits that he got drunk, and the headlines just kept rolling in. Jason Burt of The Telegraph. Marcus Rashford must decide if he wants to be a good footballer or a great one. Then the attacks kept coming over and over again. It was nonstop. I mean, take a look at this graphic. It was unequivocally relentless from the English press. And look, would you expect anything less of someone like Trump crony Piers Morgan? Nah, you wouldn't. Of course not. But he chimed in too. But there was also the story of Raheem Sterling, a 4-time Prem winner, an FA Cup winner, England international. He would be ripped by the press for buying his mother a house. When Phil Foden, England international and Manchester City man, did the same, it was called an incredible gesture. They published Foden has always shown his love and appreciation for his parents. When he was 18, he bought his parents a $2 million mansion, which they reportedly had a helping hand in choosing. The fact is, we can go on and on and on. When this occurred, Rashford was in his mid-20s. Grealish is now over 30. It is obvious what is happening here, not just to me, but to many others.
And sometimes we have to be real. If it was Rashford doing the kind of thing that we have seen Grealish doing, if we'd seen Rashford in those images stumbling down the road outside the pub, he would be destroyed. And I think that there is a double standard here in the way that we treat images like that. And I'm sure Rashford himself would look at that. I'm sure Grealish himself would be relieved he's not Rashford in a situation like that. But we are not being fair and even-handed.
True that from Darren Lewis of the Daily Mirror. Ian Wright also shared similar fears with this star.
And I'm worried for Jude simply because he's somebody that they can't control. You can't control him. Obviously, coming off of the who else and what he done in the World Cup, he's showing people that, I'm here, I'm black, I'm proud, I'm ready to go. All that vibe is something that a certain man can't deal with. Even though when I was younger, people would say, yeah, but you're not really English, are you? Yeah, I'm English. I don't think they're ready for a black superstar like that who can move like Jude's moving. But someone like Jude, for some reason, frightens these people because of his capability and the inspiration he can give. It's something that you're taught when you're, as a black man, when you're going out there, you just want to try and do the best you can and keep your head down and be, for want of a better, humble slave. This is where this is dragging up from that kind of energy. Because if you are outspoken black and doing that kind of, playing to that kind of level and not caring, that frightens certain people. And that's what's going to happen with Jude. This guy who I'm telling you about in respects of he's obsessed with him. He's moving off of that energy. He can't look and see a black man doing what Jude's doing and think that that's not uppity. He's not an uppity. That's where I'm going with that. That's where that comes down to.
As did the commenters. Fish would tweet, the moment a black man embarrassed the Tories like Rashford did, he was doomed to the insidious hit pieces that have painted a narrative since. Jack Grealish, no Premier League goal in a year, cost $100 million, gets pissed drunk, and his character doesn't get called into question. Like Marcus, fuck off. Paul Wheeler wrote, Jack Grealish convicted for drunk driving. His drunkenness is a meme. Phil Foden sent home from England for sneaking 4 girls back to the hotel during COVID. Marcus Rashford campaigns for social justice. Which one has character concerns in the media? Another tweeted, if your name isn't Marcus Rashford, Paul Pogba, or Bukayo Saka, if your skin isn't black as a footballer, if you're not a Manchester United player, if you're not any of these, you're allowed to be an addict and a drunk, especially in public, and the media would love you for it. Lastly, from Minirux, genuinely couldn't care less that Grealish is out with his mates getting drunk, but the way the media protects him whilst relentlessly villainizing players like Rashford for less is outrageous. The double standards are glaring. Indeed, they are. And that is exactly what we are going to do here. If you appreciate this content, if you appreciate my voice, even as I battle a cold, please become a paid channel member. Or you could head to Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description box below. Anything and everything helps support this channel and keeping it independent. Thank you.